Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees get pummeled in a 2-game set at Citi Field against the Mets. So the struggles for the Yankees definitely continue. They had lost 3 straight series coming in. They now lose 4 straight series, and this is technically the first sweep that they've had against them this season. Now, I take that with just a semi-grain of salt with this being a 2-game series. That's in no way to take away from how bad it's been, because it's been bad. Yankees record now sits at 52-30, which is still really, really good. I mean, that's still one of the best records in baseball. To be specific, the Yankees are still technically ahead of the Orioles for first place in the division. They're tied on the loss side, but the Yankees have 2 more wins than Baltimore, so they're a game ahead of the Orioles in the AL East. But, I mean, I don't know how much longer that'll last. And then as far as the, American League and let's just go Major League Baseball, the Yankees are 2 games behind the Phillies, 1 game behind Cleveland, 1 game ahead of Baltimore, and 1 game ahead of the Dodgers. And I'm not taking into account the loss column, because if you look at the loss column, it's really the Phillies and Guardians that are clearly like 1 and 2, with their only having 27 losses. The point is this: the Yankees are struggling big time. They're 3-9 in their last 12. They're 2-8 in their last 10. It's bad. It is bad any way you want to look at it. I'm not even sure where to begin. And the Mets have been playing really good baseball. That lineup is just rolling on all cylinders. And the Yankees allowed 9 runs in game 1 and 12 runs in game 2. And that was only, the Mets, that was only 8 innings each for the Mets because they were the home team. So it could have even technically been worse. And if not for Aaron Judge, both games would have been completely lopsided. The Yankees made it a little bit interesting game 1. But yeah, just really, really ugly. And yeah, the JD Davis makes his debut with the Yanks, and look, he's put in a tough spot, really. He hadn't faced, actual major league pitching probably in at least, I don't know the exact timeline on it. I'm assuming it was like about at least a week or so, give or take. And so that can be a tough adjustment to just then hop right back in. But yeah, he, was the he was the starting first baseman in the first game and the DH in the second game. A big storyline coming out of this is Gleyber Torres being benched. So Gleyber Torres, that finally happened. And so I would expect him to not play the first game against the Blue Jays. That's the next series for the Yankees. They'll head to Toronto for a 4-game set against the Blue Jays. And I think that Gleyber will probably sit out. We've seen this before. Yankees have done this in years past. They've done it this year with Anthony Rizzo. In Gleyber's case, a little bit of everything. And it's ineffectiveness, but it's also just kind of there's a bit of a lack of hustle. And I think he had a big error in the first game that extended the Met lead, but also in the 8th inning after the Yankees made it interesting after that Judge grand slam with Gleyber batting cleanup, which is way higher than he should be batting. But when you look at the other options, it's just 4 through 9 is just bad. Gleyber, and it was kind of par for the course for him. He grounded out to short, and he was kind of just slow going to first. To me, it was kind of just normal. It wasn't like anything that different from what we're used to with Gleyber. That's the way he plays. I'm not defending it. I don't like it, but it's the way it is. And so they were kind of using the groin, as a little bit of an excuse post-game. But then, when it was readdressed before the game, this was a non-injury related benching, like, benching or sit down, whatever you want to call it. So that's a big thing in a lot of ways. But look, Gleyber's going to be back in there. I would say he'll be back in there as early as Friday. But I would suspect he will not start. And for them to do that, for them to bench him, it is somewhat significant considering he's been bad, but they do need him. And they still kind of wanted to send a message, and hopefully this can get him going. I don't know that it will. But he's not alone in terms of the dysfunction, but he's a big part of it. I mean, lineup wise. DJ LeMay is still searching for his first extra base hit. He's had about 85 plate appearances and 0 extra base hits. Now, sure, he's hit a couple of balls hard, but really, that's no reason to be giving him praise. That's no reason to be giving him praise. Yeah, sure, you want to be optimistic. All right, fine. That maybe that leads to something, but I'm not. I'm not bullish on the idea that LeMahieu is going to be a real productive player, unfortunately. Alex Verdugo really, really has been struggling. And for him, he ended up with 2 hits kind of in a blowout situation in game 2, and you're hoping that can turn him around. But his numbers have really plummeted, and he's someone that is really needed as well. So Judge continues to just be red hot. He hits 2 homers in the series. He's up to 30. I mean, what he's doing is better than 2022. And this is after an awful, awful month of April for Judge. I mean, what he's doing is nothing short of ridiculous. And yet this team still has and yet the team is still struggling mightily. And I could go on and on and on. There's a lot of problems. That's kind of a little bit of a brief look at the offense. As far as the rotation, Gerrit Cole was terrible. And it does make you wonder, would it have been wiser to just let him continue his rehab in the minor leagues? I understand why he's up. Look, he's Gerrit Cole. You figure that even in not so good times he'll be effective. But boy, after what was an okay start against Baltimore, this was bad. Really, really bad. He was hit hard. His command wasn't great. The final stat line's ugly. We'll talk about that too. And then in game 2, Luis Gil, unfortunately, it wasn't as bad as the Baltimore game. No, because that would be near impossible. But it wasn't good. Luis Gil had that fastball. Teams are taking advantage. They are hunting the fastball, and it's working. So for Gil, you got to be a little bit concerned about ineffectiveness and eventually fatigue. If it hasn't already set in, when will it? So the rotation, we know how Carlos Rodon's been lately, not good. And so really the only ones Nestor, sadly, has probably been the best pitcher in this bad stretch. And Stroman's kind of just been himself, for better or worse. He's been fine. But yeah, you're seeing a lot of holes. We know that the bullpen is not very good. And this team had so many double plays. It's just ridiculous. The Yankees have hit into the most double plays, I'm pretty sure by a wide margin as well in baseball. Certainly in the American League, but I think just in general. With the trade deadline a little more than a month away, there's a lot of moves that need to be done. Not just one. I think multiple moves. And I think that the Yankees are going to go for it. I think that there's going to be no stone left unturned. At least I hope not. Because I don't think you can trust what's there internally, whether that be healthy bodies or players that are currently injured. The Yankees are going to need to really make shrewd moves and really, really patch up some of these holes, because there's a lot of them. I'm just saying, look, I think the Yankees ultimately, I don't think it's going to be bad enough for them to just collapse, miss the playoffs. I think that they'll, I feel very comfortable about that. They're 52-30. Struggles happen, but yet, if I'm being honest, and I've kind of said this now for a bit, there are, I think, long-term concerns. If this team really does have World Series aspirations, this does not look anywhere close to a team that would really be able to do so. So anyway, let's get into these 2 games. Again, the way it's been in recent years, with the way the schedule has been, is you get 2 games at Citi Field and 2 games at Yankee Stadium. It seems like lately it lands where, and this is just probably pure coincidence, where the first 2 games seem to be at Citi Field, and the next 2 games later on tend to be at Yankee Stadium. I do miss the idea of having the 3-game series. I hope that they can kind of re-implement that somehow within the schedule. I don't know how they would do it. It wouldn't seem to be overly difficult, although I guess it kind of could be. When you consider the fact that I think 4 games is kind of what it is between Yankees and Mets with this new the new schedule that they have. Another thought that kind of comes to mind, which could kind of be interesting, is maybe you do a 4-game set. I don't know. I'm not sure. To me, 3 would be ideal. Maybe you do a 4-game set where you have the first 2, of course, at Yankee and then 2 at Citi. But that's here nor there. But yeah, the Mets were coming in hot, and they leave scorching hot. So the Mets, with these 2 wins, reach 500. And it's they were trying to get to that point for a while. I don't remember. I know they got off to an 0-5 start. I'm not sure if early on, if they had kind of righted the ship enough to get back there. I don't remember, but certainly this is the first time they've gotten back to 500 in some time. And that lineup just looks pretty deep. Exponentially deeper than the Yankee lineup. So we know the Yankees have struggles with left-handed pitching, and so the Mets were smart enough to have David Peterson make the start instead of Severino. Not saying the Yankees would have necessarily hit Severino, but I think that was sensible. The Yankees, like I said, and that's why hopefully this Blue Jays series will be a little better, where the Yankees will face 3 of 4 righties. But we'll get into that series after, because I have some concerns there too. But the Gerrit Cole line is bad, really, really bad. So let's just see what it was. 4 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, and here's the kicker. Here is 3 columns that I'm going to name that is all really bad. 4 walks, no strikeouts, and 4 homers. So he has a lot of work to do, and it's going to get better. I think that when it's all said and done, Cole will be fine. But right now, it's a bit problematic for the Mets. David Peterson, the Yankees made him work. If there was one thing that they did, they worked his pitch count. So he wasn't able to qualify for the win, but he pitched pretty well. 4 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, a couple of hit by pitches, 5 walks. So he was a bit erratic strike zone wise, but he did have 8 Ks. So again, low hit total, a lot of strikeouts. He just was having trouble when it comes to walks and hit by pitches. So the Yankees were getting traffic, but they weren't able to break through. And we're going to get right into that, because that was kind of a theme here. In the first inning of both games, the Yankees could not get it done with chances to do so. And this was a game where Gleyber batted cleanup. J.D. Davis made his debut, and he started at first base batting 6th. Ben Rice came off the bench. Jahmai Jones was the DH, which is it's just sad. It's just sad that Jahmai Jones is batting 8th in the DH. That just shows you the state of the lineup and the state of the team. But it starts out well. Volpe single, Soto walk, Judge walk. And then from there, just absolute nothing. Gleyber Torres strikes out. And that's where you need Gleyber to step up as a guy who's one of the longer tenured players on the team, someone who last year was one of your better offensive players. It is so important for him to just be halfway decent, and he can't even do that. He's been really one of the worst hitters in baseball. I mean, he's down to 215 with a 627 OPS and a fuck ton of errors. Like, what is it, 12 now, which is like second most in all of baseball? It's been a disaster for Gleyber Torres, who's a free agent at the end of the year. Gleyber strikes out, and then Verdugo strikes out. And look, for Verdugo, it's been a rough stretch for him in general. But against lefties, he's batting 200 flat with a 598 OPS. This is someone that ideally would not be starting against left-handed pitching. But you have no choice right now. But if there was a world, where Dominguez was healthy and Stanton were healthy, honestly, I think that they would probably consider not starting Verdugo. And I like Alex Verdugo. I like his skill set, but I'm just being honest. He is specifically not good for lefties. And look, that's not uncommon. Although with him, I feel like it would be better than it is. The way that he is, he's a contact type of guy. He's a professional hitter. Those guys tend to be a little bit, not awful versus lefties, but he kind of has been. Anyway, he strikes out, and then J.D. Davis in his first at bat strikes out looking. The former Met goes down. So that was a bit of a buzzkill for the Yankees. And then the Mets have a chance. And it looked as if maybe Cole was going to get out of it unscathed with a J.D. Martinez double play at first and second, no out. But then Alonso walks and Alvarez walks, sets it up for a bases loaded 2-out spot for Tyrone Taylor, who gets an RBI single. Luckily, though, Verdugo throws Pete Alonso out at home, so it's only 1-0 Mets. So it's kind of a mixed bag as far as how that turned out. We go to the bottom of the second, and Mark Vientos homers. He's been really good for the Mets, young player that seems like he has some promise. He homers, and he wouldn't be done, but he homers there, his 8th homer of the year. And then former Yankee Harrison Bader, he had quite the 2 games as he homers. It's his 5th homer of the season, and he wouldn't be done as far as, this series was concerned. So 3-0 Mets right there. Then we go to the bottom of the 4th, and Vientos homers again. His 2nd homer of the night, 9th homer of the year, makes it 4-0 Mets, and they wouldn't be done there. Jeff McNeil, who's really been struggling and bad this year, he singles. And then with 2 out, Brandon Nimmo, he hits a 2-run homer, his 12th homer of the year, makes it 6-0 Mets. So just a disaster for Gerrit Cole. Top of the 5th, the Yankees trying to mount a comeback. Juan Soto homers. So Soto, gets on base 3 out of 5 times in game 1. It's his 19th homer of the year, cuts it to 6-1. And then they get a chance, and this is when David Peterson's pulled. He walks Gleyber and Verdugo, and J.D. Davis is up to face the new reliever Nunez for the Mets, and Davis double play. So pretty bad beginning for J.D. Davis. He did have a couple of walks in game 2, but yeah, just a lot of strikeouts in that double play. So kind of fitting on right in. And then Phil Bickford comes on. He pitches a scoreless 5th inning. But then in the 6th, here is where the defensive miscues are highlighted. McNeil single and then he's still second. So Trevino, you're going to take chances, and that's only McNeil's 4th steal. See, that's the thing. It's not like McNeil's a big time base stealer. Then Harrison Bader singles, makes it 1st and 3rd, and then 1st and 3rd is Harrison Bader, who does get steals. He's still second. 1st and 3rd seems to be against Trevino is like an automatic steal situation. Lindor does strike out, and so it sets up Phil Bickford versus Brandon Nimmo, 2nd and 3rd, 1 out, and we're in at this point, the 6th inning. Infield's in, and Gleyber Torres, it's a ground ball to Gleyber. It's hit hard, but it goes under his glove and into the outfield. It's an error on Gleyber Torres. That's a big, as things ended up turning out, if that doesn't happen, maybe the whole thing's different. And so what could have been a 6-1 finish that inning, it ends up being 9-1 because then Michael Tonkin comes on and lets up an RBI double to JD Martinez and a sac fly to Pete Alonso. So it's 9-1 Mets, but give the Yankees credit. They would try to battle back in. An RBI double by Aaron Judge in the 7th inning makes it 9-2. Tim Hill pitches a 1-2-3 7th for the Yanks. Adam Ottavino, the former Yankee, comes on, gets into a little bit of trouble. It's a pinch hit single for Ben Rice. Then after a DJ LeMahieu lineout, Trent Grisham pinch hits for Jahmai Jones and walks. Makes it 1st and 2nd, 1 out. And then Austin Wells, he would pinch hit for Trevino. They bring on the lefty Danny Young, and Austin Wells gets an RBI single, makes it 9-3. Then Anthony Volpe strikes out. And then Juan sort of walks, leading it to bases loaded, 2 out. Reed Garrett comes in to face Aaron Judge, and it was an 0-2 pitch that got way too much plate. It looked like Judge may have gotten under it, but the ball kept carrying, and it went out for a grand slam for Judge. His 29th home run of the year makes it 9-7. So all of a sudden, it's like, all right, 4 outs to go. No Edwin Diaz due to suspension. Maybe the Yankees have a chance here, but Gleyber Torres then grounds out to short, and this is the play where Gleyber just dogged it to first. And again, he does this. So to me, this isn't anything overly new, but Michael Kay made a big deal about it. And that seems to happen where if the Yankee broadcast, typically Kay, if they make a big deal about it, that's when it kind of becomes a bigger deal. But I think if you really watch Gleyber regularly, you're accustomed to it. It just they shine a light on it. And so it's 9-7 at that point. Then Tommy Kahnle, he pitches a scoreless 8th, and Kahnle's actually been better lately, so that's something to keep an eye on. He's been pretty good. Within that inning, though, Lindor singles, kind of a lucky single down the line, and DJ LeMahieu just a awful, I don't know, he just needed to keep it in front of him, and it goes by him. So it's an error on LeMahieu, and Lindor goes to second. So a really rough game for DJ offensively and defensively. But again, Kahnle gets out of that, and then Reed Garrett stays on for the 9th. Verdugo lines out, Rice grounds out, and then LeMahieu strikes out swinging on a pitch that was out of the zone, and so the Mets hang on for the 9-7 win. To me, though, that score is misleading. The Yankees really got it. The Mets hit the Yankee pitching hard, and luckily Aaron Judge was able to kind of get into one that just went out that ends up making the final score look a little bit closer than the reality. Now, Game 2, the final score was lopsided. The Mets win Game 2 12-2. And this game had a rain delay in the 5th inning. Just a tough game all around. Gleyber is benched in this game. J.D. Davis moves up to clean up as the DH. Ben Rice gets the start against the lefty at first base. And Oswaldo, he bats 9th and plays second base for Gleyber. And Oswaldo, I just think that he deserves playing time. He goes 1 for 3 with a walk. He's, with a double. Hit the ball hard. I like Oswaldo. I'm not saying he's amazing, but I think he can be a bit of a spark plug, and I think they could use some of that energy. So I hope I hope he gets some run here, whether that be for Gleyber, whether that be for LeMahieu, whatever you want to do. I hope he's in more than he's not. Let's put it that way. So Luis Gil, his line, not great. And what sucks for Gil, his ERA is up to 3.15. And again, in a nutshell, that's really good. But Gil, he was below 2. Not all that long ago. So for Gil, it's been rough. He goes 4 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 5 earned runs, 4 walks, only 2 strikeouts, and 2 hit by pitches. So really another rough outing for Luis Gil. There's no way around it. And now I'm almost wondering, where him making the All-Star game was like a lock. I don't, maybe it still is based on the great start, but like now it's no longer a sure thing. And again, that's more of a side note. But and then for the Mets, it was Sean Manaea, who was able to kind of navigate through 5 innings. He would have actually went longer, I think, if not for the rain delay. But his line, again, he had 5 walks, 3 strikeouts, which isn't great, but only 2 hits. The Yankees do not hit left-handed pitching. It's just plain and simple. Plain and simple. So let's see. Yankees get another decent start, first inning-wise. 3 straight walks with 1 out. And this is after Volpe gets robbed by Mark Vientos in the first at-bat. But Soto walk, Judge walk, Davis walk, sets up Alex Verdugo. First pitch, easy double play, 4-6-3. And so Verdugo he's hurt them. He's hurt them a lot. And he's got to turn it around. I know he's capable of it, and we need to see that. And hopefully, the 2 hits he got at the end of this game can springboard him. So bottom of the first, Heel gets into trouble, but luckily is able to get out of it. It ends up being a base loaded 2-out spot again for Taylor, as it had been in game 1, but this time Taylor pops out. So now, second inning, Jose Trevino double play. Yankees should have hit into 4 double plays in this game. They hit into 3, and then one of them, DJ LeMahieu, it should have been, but it was an error on Vientos. It was an absolute Taylor-made 5-4-3 double play and was booted. So it's not good. Bottom of the third, the Mets take the lead. It is an RBI single for JD Martinez. And then Pete Alonso grounds a double play, but first and second, no out. And so you're thinking, all right, maybe it's only 1-0. But then Francisco Alvarez hits his 4th homer of the year, a 2-run homer to make it 3-0. And that's where, to me, I would have hoped they would have pitched a little bit more carefully with Tyrone Taylor on deck. And I know Taylor actually had a pretty good series, but Alvarez has been red hot. He's a really good hitter. I wish that they were just a little bit more careful, and so he hurts them, and it makes it 3-0. Then in the 4th inning, Verdugo again in a big spot. First and second, no out. Full count after a Judge single and J.D. Davis walk. It's another double play of Verdugo. Just, between game. I mean, it's just big spots, and he's coming up really small, unfortunately. Bottom of the 5th is when the rain starts to happen a bit, and it's a leadoff Nimmo walk and then a 1-out Alonso walk. They bring in the lefty Caleb Ferguson to face Alvarez. And in the rain a little bit at that point, it's an RBI double for Francisco Alvarez. So Caleb Ferguson, they're going to keep riding him a little bit, but I don't know how much longer you can. Just the results just haven't been good enough. So that makes it 4-0. And then you get a rain delay when Tyrone Taylor is up. And so then Yoendris Gomez comes in, and boy, was it bad for Gomez, who looked really solid against the Braves last game. Granted, it was in a lopsided score, and so was this basically. But Gomez, I wouldn't be surprised. Let me see if there was anything official. I don't think there was. Maybe they'll give him some run. But, let me see. Has Gomez been sent down? No, he hasn't been. And by the way, I should also mention, surprisingly, Victor Gonzalez was not claimed on waivers, and he's actually going to AAA. So maybe we see him again at some point. But Gomez comes in, and it's bad. Tyrone Taylor walk. Mark Vientos bases loaded walk makes it 5-0. Sack fly Jeff McNeil makes it 6-0. Harrison Bader RBI double makes it 7-0. So all of those heel runs come in. The one Ferguson one comes in. You know what I guess I just realized, which does make sense, is technically Ferguson only faced 1 batter, but I guess there must be a rule that, and this again makes total sense, that in a rain delay, you can of course replace the pitcher. That's obvious, but just something that I just thought of. So 7-0 Mets. We go to the 6th. Danny Young replaces Sean Manaea, and he's greeted with a walk by Soto and a 2-run shot by Judge, his 30th homer of the year. His numbers are fucking insane on the season. Like 309 batting average, 114.5 OPS, 30 homers, and 77 RBIs. It's just, these are video game numbers for Aaron Judge. It's just, he continues to amaze. Adam Ottavino would come on to replace Danny Young eventually. And it ends up being, after that, LeMahieu reaching on an error. This is a point in time when maybe there was a chance to make it interesting, but Austin Wells, as a pinch hitter, strikes out looking, and then Ben Rice lines out to left. And then Gomez in the 6th. It's a 2-out rally for the Mets. Alonso reaches on a hit by pitch. Alvarez singles, then Tyrone Taylor with the dagger. 3rd homer of the season. It's a 3-run shot to give the Mets a 10-2 lead. Adrian Hauser would actually end up pitching 3 scoreless innings from the 7th through the 9th. In the bottom of the seventh, off of Gomez, former Yankee Harrison Bader homers again. His sixth homer of the season makes it 11-2. And then in the eighth, and at this point, I think, who was it? Was it Tim Hill? Who was pitching for the Yankees at this point? I think it might have been Hill. Yeah. Hill comes on. He had pitched the day before. He eventually allows an RBI single to Vientos. So the final score is 12-2 Mets. Ugly times for the Yankees. There's just no way around it. And so now they'll face the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays, they have been one of the biggest disappointments in baseball. But would it surprise me if the Blue Jays turn around against the Yankees? Not at all. Not even in the slightest would it surprise me if they did. So let's go through the pitching matchups. And remember, the Yankees, one of the few series that they had lost early on was a 2-of-3 series lost at Toronto in April. So I don't think the series is going to be easy. And the Yankees have had their struggles with Staley's, and they're just not playing well. So I look at the series, and honestly, I would take the split. I think you have to take the split. I mean, I'd be thrilled if they could take 3 out of 4. I know that Toronto's not good, but I know this Yankee club, they are reeling right now. So here are the pitching matchups. Carlos Rodon versus Jose Barrios. And look, Rodon's been not good. So I don't feel overly optimistic on that one. I'll say these pitching matchups, a lot of names, if you will, like a lot of starters that you'd recognize on both sides. So Rodon versus Barrios. Then game 2 will be Marcus Stroman back in his old stomping grounds against Kikuchi, who the Yankees have seen really good a lot of him recently. And so that we'll see what comes of that. But Stroman, I'm sure, will be pumped up to pitch in Toronto. He had done so earlier in the year as well, if memory serves me correct. And then game 3, Nestor Cortez, who's been better lately. But this will be, his home road splits are still very drastic. And so it'll be Cortez versus Chris Bassett. And then game 4, this is the biggest name matchup. And they've faced off before. Gerrit Cole against Kevin Gausman. So it's funny. I look at these it's weird. So let me just actually double take this. Barrios is 6-6. Kikuchi's 4-7. Bassett's 6-6, and Gausman 6-6. That's bizarre. 3 of the 4 all have identical 6-6 records, and all of their ERAs are kind of somewhat around the same, about 3.5 to 4.5. And that is a pretty big range, but still. So I think that the Yankees, they're going to have to come in ready to go, because I think that Toronto's upset. Toronto has a 36-43 record. Say what you will. That's a lot worse than anyone could have ever expected. And a lot of players are underperforming. There's a lot of talk about them being sellers potentially. And there's a lot of players on Toronto that people would want. So I'm going into this series with kind of low expectations. And we'll just see what happens. But, it's in the Yankees' best interest to turn this around. I don't know how it gets done, but we'll see what happens. But the Yankees, they will leave Queens, and are probably happy to do so, and head out and going north of the border to Toronto to take on the Blue Jays after they get clobbered in the 2-game set against the Mets.